All right, I think we are set and ready to go for our meeting today. We don't have anyone on the phone, I don't believe, but we'll just go through and do a quick attendance of everybody that is present.
Wanda Manglecook.
Chris Shipper.
Amy Oren.
Jenna Reno.
Paul Jensen.
Perfect. Okay, so the first.
Hannah James.
Oh, Hannah James is on the
Hannah
phone.
James is on the phone.
Sorry.
Yes.
Welcome, Hannah.
No problem. Hi, thank you.
Okay, so our first item is we need an approval of our agenda. Do we have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item is going to be approval of our minutes from our July 18th meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
This is Jenna Reno. All motion to approve.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next item is public comment. I don't see anybody here. Then we'll just move right on into our staff report then.
Hello.
Hello.
You have my report in your packet. I'll just give you some highlights. I want to talk about both of our community engagement events coming up the rest of August because they both meet a part of the community that I think is really important for the library. The first is this Saturday. It's the annual Native American Community Picnic that's at MB Johnson Park in Moorhead. We always sign up a lot of people for library cards at that one. And then later this month is the Day of Dignity. That is working with other departments of the city to get people access to services from all different types. The Children's Department is wrapping up their summer reading program and getting ready for a whole slew of events starting once the school year starts. But they also have school supply bingo coming up where kids can come, anybody kindergarten or older, and win school supplies for the upcoming year. Our teens are also getting ready for school with a craft where they can make buttons for their backpacks or locker magnets. Programming for adults coming up, we have an author visit with Sylvan Logring. His book, A Big Challenge for Little Brother, is about growing up on a small farm in the 40s and 50s. And then we also have the first of our One Book, One Community events starting up in the next month. And it is a partnership with River Keepers planting trees along the river. Do any of you have questions for me?
Do you not offer a story time in the evenings anymore in the fall?
I don't believe they have one planned,
Okay.
but I can double check and get back to you.
Okay. All right, any other questions? No? Okay, then into the director's report.
Yes, just you have my report in the packet. I do want to touch on, Amy sent me an email that was a citizen had a concern in regards to kind of the environment down by the main library over this past summer. Certainly, I'm concerned. I have seen an increase in incidents and activities in and around the library. Certainly, all of this has been continually communicated to city administration. Looking for more conversations in this regard with city administration, harm reduction, facilities management. You know, and again, it's a situation that all cities are facing. You know, and certainly as you as library board members, if members of the public are contacting you or have questions and concerns, you can direct them right to me. And certainly I can talk to them about where that conversation is and what we've talked about, where the situation. I know in constant discussions and updates to city administration, you know, I've had folks from harm reduction, which are folks that work with the homeless and vulnerable, and they're trying to be more present and available. You know, again, they have a pretty thin staffing margin, just like all the other city departments in that regard. It's a thing that I'm going to continue to hammer on, obviously, because with the resources I have, it's essentially myself, the wits of the staff, and 2 contract security guards. So that's the extent of what we have. Certainly, we have a good relationship with Fargo PD, harm reduction in regards to this, but it's a constant vigilance kind of situation. So, you know, we had a situation, you can see, I don't know if you've been at the library, we got a couple windows knocked out on the doors, one on the south side and one on the east side. It was an individual who has since been incarcerated. He basically showed up at 10 o'clock, after 10 at night, and took a rock, smashed the windows out, and we had it all on security camera, got that to PD. He's been arrested. We're looking at pressing, you know, vandalism and destruction of property and this kind of thing. But it's a constant thing, and it takes up, I can tell you, it takes up a lot of my time, and the staff's time in regards to this. But that's kind of where it is, and it's all over downtown, and it's a situation that I think needs more attention. I'm not looking for, you know, single solutions, because not one single solution is going to solve it. But I think there needs to be a concentration or a conversation and looking at solutions. So certainly it's on my radar every day, moment by moment, instant by incident. But certainly as board members, again, if you have members of the public that are concerned, please have them contact me, because it's a stronger voice, certainly coming from the taxpayers. And I think that's an important voice that needs to be heard, as well as mine and staff and other city departments in that regard. So that's kind of where we are on that. It's been an elevated summer in regards to this. A lot of new faces in situations that we haven't really faced before. You know, we've always had a certain level of that, you know, as any urban library, but I would say that this summer it's been more elevated in regards to that behavior. I don't know how that bodes for the winter, but certainly want to have those conversations now and try and drive for something better.
Are you concerned about your or your staff's safety?
I'm always concerned because in these situations, we've seen it generally that I've seen, those things can go from 0 to 60.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the staff does a really good job, and we've had a lot of training in terms of de-escalation. You know, always talking about, if you're going to talk to somebody, go there with, there's 2 people, have security, you know, and if something just doesn't feel right, call the police. And that's always been my mantra. I will always support the staff, regardless of the situation, where they call dispatch or 911 or whatever, because you don't know. So it's you know, we've had continual education, but again, those possibilities exist. We haven't had it happen in terms of staff. Generally, what I've seen is individuals have had an issue somewhere else downtown. They run into each other at the library, and then they have an issue. They have an issue, physical altercation, and this kind of thing. So it's always a concern.
Has the city decided to do some research into why the elevation of the new
I don't know.
faces, and what can they do to
I've only
create this?
right. I've kept them informed in terms of our situation and what's been communicated to me and the questions that have come to me. In terms of what they're doing, I'm followed up again today to say, hey, where is this conversation? So I'm sure at some level within harm reduction, there's probably discussions in this regard, but I'm not privy to those conversations, so I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Do you feel like library attendance numbers have gone down at all?
In terms of attendance,
Or like, yeah, and the number of people that you feel like come through, or like, has anybody else really made?
no, I would say, again, for us, it's always the dynamic of 2019, COVID, post-COVID.
Right,
So you have a pretty good number in 2019, but since 2020 and you can see it in the stats in the packet here, we continue to see increases in terms of visits. And what I want certainly is to avoid the environment to reach a point where what you're talking about happens. And that's why I'm so insistent
okay,
with those conversations.
okay. I think the other thing too was the comment that was made to me was like, how do you prevent people from coming into like the children's area? And I'm like, I've never seen anybody wander in there that didn't seem like they should be in there.
I think I would tell anybody, a parent, you really have to pay attention. I mean, that's true of going to the Target, Cashwise, Costco, doesn't matter. Any department store, mall, library, that vigilance has to be there. The library staff, we can do a lot, but we can't be everywhere at once. And parents, I would urge them that in any public space that you have a level of diligence, because that's what makes a difference.
Yep.
Us having some random, it would be impossible to enforce. Oh, you don't look quite right. You can't come in. No, I mean, that doesn't fly. There's no way to police that. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's more of understand that this is a public space and we have the wide panorama of the public. And it's really parents being vigilant in that regard in those all public spaces.
I must say, I'm sure that those who deals with these homeless people that are walking around here, they know who they are. And keep track of them, I would assume.
Well,
because-
they know some of them and some of them they don't,
Yeah. Well,
Is there anything that, so you had mentioned, people specifically like reach out to you if they have thoughts or feelings or questions. I mean, is there anything else that we should encourage people to do that might be helpful for you to get support that you need?
Certainly if it involves the library, it would be good to come to me first. But anybody that has any concerns in regards to the city, obviously, it's the elected officials that ultimately have to drive, the focus in regards to these issues. So, and I think they're all concerned. I don't ever think in, discussions or with the mayor and the commissioners, I think there is a deep concern. It's just kind of getting a handle around kind of the scope of what the issue is and the incidents that we're running into, and certainly I've been keeping city administration. If I get something is what it is, I send it right to them, just FYI. This is what's going on. This is what we're running into. So, yeah.
yeah. Do you get a response for what they have in mind?
I think they're having discussions. I hope to be privy of those
Well,
pretty soon.
they haven't come with, that they would like to discuss it and come back with a response to you?
I'm sure they do. I hope so.
You don't know me, in other words.
I've been keeping them informed of what's going on. Certainly reached out again today. So hopefully we
Is
can
the
have further discussion.
situation intolerable?
I wouldn't say, what I would say is it has the potential, if there's not a multi-level approach on it, I worry that the environment will get to a point where it'll be that much tougher to bring it to a better place. And at that point, who's not going to come down there anymore?
I would hate to see such a development where people are concerned about going to the library because they feel threatened one way or the other, or they feel for the safety of their children going there. So I think it's an important issue that, that we really need to have the city commissioners address and come with a response to what they plan to do. Because not to come with a reaction is really not a good thing. You know, they have to maybe allocate more personnel funds to go about, solving the situation for you. Because I'm unhappy on your behalf.
So more to come, obviously. That'll be a continual situation.
Thank you so much for that update. I really appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, kind of just off of that?
What, does this law enforcement issue on cameras, does that play into this discussion?
It's a slightly no, it's a really kind of going back to the situation back on the 6th down at Carlson. It's basically, we'll get there when we get
Yeah.
Yep.
to the item on the agenda. We'll
Sure.
have a discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Keep us informed, and I think too, just let us know what we can maybe do to try to help with anything. Okay. Do you have more for the director's report?
Only if folks have any questions with the written report in the packet.
Any questions? No? And then we have no unfinished business. So then I think we're at item number 7, law enforcement inquiry procedure draft.
Yes, where this is clarifying is we do have a procedure, law enforcement inquiries, and you can see in the packet, there's the, the red portion at the top. And the rest of it really has to do with like library records or stuff from library computers or public computers or this kind of thing, where this delineates, because we had police asking for camera footage as of the 6th with the shooting down near Carlson. And in previous discussions with the city attorney's office, actually anyone can come off the street and say, hey, my bike was stolen out in front. Can you have any security footage? I would like security footage for this date on this time or whatever, and we could provide it. So it's not because it's footage of happenings in a public space. So it's not, you were in a public space, there it is. So this kind of just make sure that, in the future, staff have a very clear understanding that in a situation where law enforcement comes in and says, I'd really like to see some camera footage by X, Y, and Z date, this and that it isn't like, I want to see the library or the library records of this individual, or I want to see what this person was looking at on the computer. No, I want to see the record of this public space in this specific time, which is much different, based certainly on the city attorneys. So it's really clarifying that so staff have a clear view of law enforcement inquiries related to library stuff versus security camera footage, which again is public space. So nobody's confused about, oh, this is a law enforcement inquiry. Sure it is. They're asking for security camera footage, but that doesn't fall under kind of the whys and wherefores of this. It delineates that as just, yes, if they come in and ask for security camera footage, we can provide it to them as soon as possible.
Have you considered, the training of your staff to deal with these kind of inquiries? Let's say you're not in the office and somebody
We
comes
do,
here
I
and
mean,
he's
certainly the
asking-
admin team, folks, other folks, like when I'm not there, have handled it, so.
Yeah. Because there's the public area where everybody can come, and there's no reason to have any search warrant for that.
No,
There's only an issue when there's a search warrant within your designated office areas that are separated from the rest of the library. And that's what we're discussing here, right?
no, what we're talking about is, well, the other stuff is more or less not so much, because we don't have cameras, obviously, in staff areas. There's no cameras
No.
there.
No.
So it's more of, and we've had situations where PD has showed up and said, well, we want to see what this individual was on this computer because he made a threat to a school. And we said, well, we need a search warrant. So they had to go, and they did, and they got the hard drive and we were able to look at it and this kind of thing. But this is just basically, again, just security camera footage, and again, that's open to the public, and it should be open to PD as just as much as it.
Of course. So, just to make sure that there's no discussion on the subject, that's what it says, I suppose, somewhere in the text that is related to security footage,
Yeah.
right? And only that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the staff will know that as well, that
Request for a security camera footage. The exception of this procedure is law enforcement request for security camera footage. The first sentence.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions at all? This one? Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
Hannah James will motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Any discussion at all? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to the statistical report.
Yeah, the first one, looking at library use, to Amy's question. You can see there, certainly through year-to-date comparison, we're up 11% over last year, and you can see that in terms of visits. Program attendance, that's way up, which is happy. That's a good news. A lot of good programs. Volunteer hours bumping back up again, which is nice. Internet sign up, again, that's strong at 12% year to date. Electronic activity year to date also up 11%. In terms of overall circulation, almost up 3% over last July, and year to date, a little over 9% over 2022, which is a little over 48,000 more items circulated this year than last year, year to date.
Okay, any questions on that? No? Then the financials.
Okay, looking at the donation summary on the revenue side, we received a memorial of $15, and then on the restricted, a anonymous gift of $241 and for the Carlson Library, and thank you to the Friends of a donation for the One Book, One Community from the Friends of $3,700. On the expenditure side of programming, this is summertime, so $451 for the Traveling Lantern programs for the summer reading program for children. Again, thank you, many thank yous for the Friends. Also, $275 expended for the Tuesdays with Toddlers sponsorship at the Plains Art Museum with the Friends. Thank you again. And $3,600 for the new Story Walk sponsorship by the Friends down at the Ed Clapp School near the Carlson Library. So thank you to the Friends for that. They do very well with their bookstore. Thank you. And also for books and materials, spending some of that money that they gave for the One Book, One Community, the $1,398. And again, a thank you to the Friends for the staff development of the Way to Go cards for staff recognition. And again, if they didn't give us that money, we wouldn't be able to do it. So very generous Friends group. They're doing a tremendous job for us. In terms of operating, with 58% of the year lapsed, we're just over 55% expended. Obviously, continue to look at that as we get down to the end of the fiscal year. Looking at that, so all's well there. And in terms of revenue, we're just over $20,000 for revenue through the end of July for this year.
Okay, any questions on the financial report? No? And I don't think we have anybody from the Friends of the Library here. And I think that's it. Next meeting, September 19th. We are complete.